Today we're going to talk about multi-step equations, but we are going to have multi-step equations represented in real-world situations or word problems. This is page 28F in our binders, 28 on the front. I want to point out that you can find keywords that we are relying on page 18F and page 23F, translating and modeling expressions, and then writing two-step equations. So, let's start out with the example number 1. This says Andy's rental car company charges an initial fee of $14 plus an additional $30 per day to rent a car. Buddy's rental car charges an initial fee of $42 plus an additional $16 per day. For what number of days is the total cost charged by the companies the same? If you're using that problem-solving acronym that we talked about, first you need to circle all of your important numbers. 14, 30, 16, 42. Now we'll underline the question. For what number of days is the total cost the same? Now we'll box our important information. Before we do that, actually, let's go ahead and talk about the question. In our question, we actually get to define what the variable is, and we get to set up our equation. So the variable is the thing that we don't know, which is what number of days. So our variable is going to tell us the number of days that we're talking about. And we want the total cost to be the same between the two companies. The two companies we had, if you were to go back and read, are Andy's company, and Buddy's company. Now we'll go ahead and we just underlined our question, so we'll put a box around all of the important information. So we've got Andy's rental car company. I think Andy's important because all this next stuff pertains with Andy. He charges an initial fee of that $14 plus an additional $30 per day. That means that no matter how many days you have the car, you're definitely paying $14. On top of that, you're also, plus, we are also paying $30 per day. Per tells you to multiply this 30 and the number of days. 30 times the number of days, that would be 30 times x. Still boxing our important information in vocabulary. Buddy's rental car charges an initial fee of $42 plus an additional $16 per day. So no matter what with Buddy, we have to pay the $42, but you get to pay a whole lot less every day with him. Per would tell us multiply. We're multiplying 16 and the number of days. The number of days is what we are representing with the variable though. So instead of 16 times the number, we'll have 16 times x. And we're paying that on top of the initial fee or with plus the initial fee, sorry. So now my equation is 14 plus 30x equals 42 plus 16x. That's all there is for writing the equation. But we can actually solve this equation for x, and x tells us the number of days that we're renting the car. That will answer the question that they asked us, for what number of days is the total cost the same. So to solve that equation, I'm going to do that over here. We've got 14 plus 30x equals 42 plus 16x. In class, this was actually one of our warm-up questions, so if you were in class, look on your warm-up and you can skip this next part of the video. I'm going to move 30x. We need x's on one side of the equation and we have x's on two sides of the equation. So I'm going to move the 30x to the other side. It doesn't matter which term with the variables you decide to move, but we need variables on one side. I subtracted because right now it says plus 30x and the opposite of plus is minus. So to undo the plus 30x, we should minus 30x. That makes a zero pair because something minus itself is 0. And we're left with just the 14 on this side. On the right side, we have 42 plus not plus, sorry. We have a positive 16 minus 30, which is a minus 14x. So this will be 42 minus 14x. This is the side with the variable. On the right side we have the variable, which means we need to get rid of the constant on that side. The constant on that side is 42. It's a positive 42. To undo a positive 42, we minus 42. It's an equation, so you do that to both sides. On the left side, 14 minus 42 is negative 28. On the right side, the 42s are a zero pair because one of them is positive and one of them is negative. And positive 42 minus 42 is 0. So we have just negative 14x on the right side left over. Now this says negative 14x on the right side. That's the same as negative 14 times x. To undo multiplication, we do the opposite of that, which is division. So instead of multiplying by negative 14, we should divide by negative 14 on both sides. On the left side, negative 28 divided by negative 14 is a positive 2. On the right side, negative 14x divided by negative 14. The negative 14s make 1, so you're left with a 1x or just x. This means that after 2 days, Andy and Buddy charge the same amount of money. Sorry, at 2 days. Andy and Buddy charge the same. I didn't want to use the word after because that would maybe make us think that after 4 days it's also, or at 4 days we're also the same. This will only be the same on 2 days of renting that car. Let's look at example number 2. So we will circle our important numbers. We changed 290 in our notes to 890. I had some trouble typing while I was working this out. Okay. And now we'll underline the question. After how many weeks will the amount of water in the 2 tanks be the same? So this is after how many weeks will the amount of water in 2 tanks be the same? Remember, same means equals. How many weeks is the thing we don't know? So our variable is telling us about the number of weeks. And it looks like we're comparing 2 tanks, so I'll have tank 1, and I'll have tank 2, and we want them to be the same, so we want tank 1 and tank 2 to be equal to each other. Going back and reading the problem then, we'll start boxing our important information. A water tank holds 890 gallons of water, and it's leaking, I think that's important, at a rate of 7 gallons per week. Okay, so we start with 890. Leaking means if the tank is leaking, then it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's decreasing. So we are taking away 7 gallons per week. This per tells you to multiply, so you're multiplying 7 and the number of weeks. The number of weeks is what our variable represents, so this is 7 times x, or 7x. Now, a second water tank holds 690 gallons, so 690 gallons is already there, but it's leaking. Remember, leaking will tell us to take away at a rate of 4 gallons per week. So again, we're multiplying 4 and the number of weeks, or 4x. This was also solved in our warm-up. What we found was that x is equal to 90. That means that it takes 90 weeks for the water levels to be the same in both tanks. And now we'll look at example number 3. A wireless company offers 2 cell phone plans. Plan A charges $21.95 per month plus 3 cents per minute for phone calls. Plan B charges $18.95 per month plus 8 cents per minute for phone calls. When will the plans cost the same? Circle my important numbers. You'll notice I circled 3 cents instead of 3. And that's 8 cents. Okay. Underline the question. When will the plans cost the same? Same means equal, and we're comparing 2 plans. We have plan A and we have plan B. And we want to know when will they cost the same. We're going to assume that this is in 1 month. After how many minutes? It's really easy to compare the 2 phone plans in 1 month, because in 1 month only one thing would change. Right now there's a lot of things changing. We have $21.95 per month and 3 cents per phone call. So if we decide to talk about just 1 month, then we only have to worry about comparing the number of minutes for the phone calls. So this is after how many minutes, which means our variable tells us the number of minutes. Okay. So a wireless company, this is plan A, offers 2 cell phone plans, and plan A charges $21.95 per month. Per tells you to multiply, so this would be $21.95 times the number of months. But we're doing this in 1 month because it's easier to compare the thing that changes more frequently. So that would be $21.95 times 1, which is just $21.95. Essentially, because per month isn't our variable is the number of minutes, that's information that we don't need anymore. So this is $21.95 no matter what, plus 3 cents per minute for phone calls. To write 3 cents, let's talk about this. We're talking in dollar amounts, so I can't just write 3 with the cent symbol because this term had a dollar in front of it, so I have to have dollars in front of whatever I'm going to put for my cents. So if I use just 3, that says $3. If I say 0.3, this says now 30 cents. And 30 cents is a lot different than 3 cents. 3 cents is 0.03. It takes 100 pennies to make the dollar. This is 3/100ths, so 3 pennies. So plus 0.03 is my cents, plus 0.033 cents per minute. 3 cents per minute. The number of minutes is our variable, so this is 0.03 times x, equal to whatever plan B charges us. Plan B charges us $18.95 per month. Just like in plan A, since we're not comparing the number of months, we're comparing the number of minutes, that doesn't mean anything to us anymore. Or this is just 1 month, and 1 times $18.95 is $18.95. Plus tells us to add 8 cents per minute per phone call. Think about how you would write 8 cents. 8 cents per minute, that would be 8 times the number of minutes. The number of minutes is x, so this is 8 times x, 8 cents times x. And you write 8 cents, 0.08. We'll go ahead and solve this while we're here. I'm going to first notice I have variables on both sides of the equation. I'm going to undo a plus 0.03x. Undoing that on the left side will allow me to have all of my variables on the right side. But if I'm minus 0.03x from the left, I also have to do that from the right. So that's a 0 term, and I have just 2195 on the left. On the right, we have 1895, and when you combine those two terms, 0.08x and minus 0.03x, we get a positive, so plus 0.05x. Now this is the term with my variable. Here's my variable. So we need to get rid of this term, 18.95. That's a positive 18.95, so to undo it, we have to subtract that from both sides. Then we're left with 3 equals 0.05x. To undo the 0.05 in front of the x, you need to divide, because the opposite of multiplying is division. So we do that on both sides. And I'm going to move my work over here. 3 divided by 0.05 is 60. And 0.05 divided by 0.05 is 1 times the x, so 1x. So 60 is equal to x. X tells us the number of minutes. So plan A and plan B cost the same when you talk on the phone for 60 minutes. The plans cost the same when you use 60 minutes.